back hasn't really turned the corner, so he's going to be out. Lance McCutcheon will be out with his shoulder. And then Matthew Stafford has cleared concussion protocol, but he will be out due to his neck. We'll see. Taking it a day at a time.
When did he clear?
2 minutes and 30 seconds ago. When did he clear? Right, it's yesterday? This morning? This morning. No, I understand. Yeah, I'll be glad when I never have to answer any more of these questions.
How's he doing?
He's doing good.
And then the neck?
The neck is still, you're gathering information. I think when you look at some of the scans, the interesting thing and the challenging thing about the neck, Jordan, is that a lot of the things that lead to some of those symptoms that he was feeling, where he had some numbness in his legs and things like that against the Saints, you can't really get it unless you talk to those experts. And then a lot of that stuff isn't really brought to life unless you get some of the impact that playing the game of football ends up, with some of those things that can occur that you can't ever really simulate in practice types of settings. So we're going to continue to gather the appropriate information and then make the best decision for Matthew and his family, with him, and then we'll see what that means for the remainder of the year.
That was going to be my follow-up question: is what's the conversation been like so far in terms of whether to shut him down?
It's really just been, let's take it a step at a time, because he wouldn't be available. Whenever he cleared concussion protocol, that was one of the steps. You knew that he wouldn't be available this week because of the neck, even if he had cleared concussion protocol. So now that we've got one of those steps taken down, then the next thing will be, let's put our heads together and then let's see, what that looks like as far as, how the neck affects his availability and what we'll do for the remainder of the season.
Is there a relief that he's cleared the concussion protocol, or is the neck injury also something where you worry about his long-term health and not just?
Yeah, I think what I do, Sarah, is I defer to those. Yeah, it's definitely a relief because I think that's positive that he's, out of that protocol. So that's one of those steps that, you feel good about. And then continuing to gather the appropriate information. How long is the neck thing? What exactly is it? It's not something that I've been communicated that's anything that you worry about in terms of the long term as it leads to next year and things like that. What we've got to figure out is with 6 games remaining, how much is he going to be available and what's the best step for him?
Do you have any feeling, one way or another in terms of how you would lean in terms of shutting him down or having him go out?
Yeah, I think there's so many layers to it. There's so much thought and, dialogue that goes into it. But I think first and foremost, it's got to get cleared, from the medical experts. And, that's where I'm not the expert in that arena. But if there's any sort of sense of, this is something that it'll be better served in the long term, or, it's going to be a few more weeks, things like that, I think that'll end up kind of taking care of itself.
David Edwards doing?
He's doing good. He's just taking it a day at a time with him as well. No updates as far as his availability, but I might have a little bit more information for you next week.
Yeah, just because you guys are coming up on the end of that window where you have to shut him down for the year.
Yep.
Is there going to be sort of a fork in the road at that point?
Yeah, I would say, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but, with just some of those different types of things, I guess I want to follow what I'm just saying. Don't get too far ahead of myself. But, again, we're going to err on the side of caution with that as well.
Have you decided who's going to start between Bryce and John?
Yeah, John's going to get the opportunity. Bryce will be ready to go if need be. He's had a good week. He's feeling good. I think both of those guys can go into this confident that they've both have played. They can learn from some of the opportunities that they've had this year. They'll both be ready, but John will get the first crack at it.
When it comes to Matthew, have you had any of these conversations? And I ask because I'm guessing he's going to go, I'm playing if I'm healthy.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, we talk every single day, we talk all the time. Matthew's the ultimate competitor. I think in a lot of instances, best thing that you can do is protect him from himself. And that's really relying on that information, the experts, talking to his family, and then we'll always make the best decision that he feels most comfortable with, that we feel most comfortable with. But I know him. If there's any inkling that he can play, this guy's going to want to play. Now, is there a possibility that we say, hey, based on what we're gathering, the doctors, those types of things, the smart thing is to not play you, and he could be upset with me, but I think he knows that I have his best interest and we have his best interest, and if that's the case, then that's definitely a possibility. But he's going to want to play. He's going to want to do everything in his power to be out there and compete with his teammates and do the things that's made Matthew Stafford.
When is your decision to start John rather than Bryce?
Really just an opportunity to see, if he can build on some of the things that he's done. He's got a little bit more experience with it. And, in some instances, we just felt like he might give us a little bit better chance to operate. But that's not an indictment on Bryce by any stretch. I thought that was a really tough situation that he had to manage last week on the road, different things like that. And so John's got just a little bit more experience. I think they both bring some similar traits to the table as far as what you can do with them. But there's a chance that you could see Bryce in this game as well, but John will get the opportunity to start.
Sean, I just want to get your thoughts on the Seahawks kind of quick rebuild. A lot of rookies are standing out this year. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a credit to the culture that they built there. They've got a very clear philosophy with John Snyder and Coach Carroll in terms of who they want to onboard, what they want it to look like, and I think that's served them really well. It's why they've been so consistently successful over the last handful of years. They play hard. They're very fundamentally sound. They're disciplined in all three phases, and like I said, there's a clear-cut philosophy on how they want to compete and what they want their tape to be able to look like. So they've had a lot of rookies that have really contributed, done a lot of really good things on both sides of the football, and whether it's the offensive lineman, the back, you're looking at some of their DBs. It's been really impressive, and that's kind of par for the course for those guys. Just getting more familiar with them over the last 6 years.
Couple more, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think he's going to be ready to go, and if he's available, he'll start at left tackle. I think in a lot of instances, so much of how you play defense and what it looks like on the second and the third levels is predicated on all 11 playing as one. I think there's been some things where he's played at a really high level. We ask a lot of Jalen in terms of moving around, the different roles and responsibilities that he plays, the different techniques and fundamentals that are asked of him within the different coverage concepts. Are we sending him forward? Is he the force defender in the run fit? So I think his versatility has definitely been on display. I think he's made a handful of big plays, and then because of the standards that he has for himself, there's a couple opportunities that I think he could say, hey, I got a chance to be able to be better in that instance. And that's what you love about great competitors. They want to be coachable. They want to always continue to improve. So I think he's shown the versatility. I think he's played really well. And I think for the standards that you have for him as a perennial all-pro caliber player, there's been a couple plays that he would probably be the first to tell you that he's capable of making that for whatever reason, we haven't, but been pleased with Jalen. Well, I think Raheem's strength is his ability to develop relationships with guys, where they know that he cares about them and loves them, and then that enables him to be able to be hard on them and have the expectations that I think are fair for the appropriate player. And, they've got a great dynamic. I think it's all about the relationship that exists and then how they can be comfortable with the different conversations that are necessary to help Jalen reach his highest potential. Jalen is comfortable to be able to give his feedback, and, it's a special relationship that those guys have, and it's fun to be able to observe. Okay? Thank you, guys.